Welcome back. I hope you have enjoyed making the visual components of your Pacman game. Now we have our Pacman, it's time to get him to move. To do that, we need to click code on the top left of the screen. Here. This will enable us to see a variety of categories of instructions, such as motion, looks, sound, events, etc. I recommend that the first thing that you do is click into each of these categories and see what is available. Before I start, I will say that my solution here is just one solution. You might know a different way, and that is okay. And there are many solutions, and I encourage you to try different ideas. Okay, I want my Pacman to move when the arrow keys are pressed. So I'm going to start with an event and choose the option key when key pressed. I will click and drag to bring that onto my stage. Actually, I will drag in 4 of those, one for each of the keys that I'm going to use to play the game. One thing to notice here is that these code blocks have a raised bump on the top. That signifies that they are starting blocks. Your code will not work if you start with any of the codes with an indent, such as this broadcast one here. Okay, so next up I'm going to use the down arrow on each of these blocks to change my keys to the ones that I'm going to use to play. So I'm going to be using the up arrow, down, left and right. Our next step is to tell our code what we want these buttons to do. For example, when I press my right arrow, I want my sprite to turn right and move. When we look at our categories and think about what we're aiming to do, our goal is to turn and move. So we can be fairly confident that when we're looking at our categories on the side, that we will be using the motion category. So let's take a look. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to point in a certain direction and we want to move. So there we go, there are our 2 blocks. And for each of our arrow keys, we're going to point in a direction and move. So we can bring that in for each. We can actually right click and duplicate and add that underneath each of our starting blocks. We just need to make sure that we've changed our information in each of these. So for our up arrow, for instance, we want to click on the number there and we want to make sure this arrow is pointing up 0 degrees. But we're going to make him move 5 steps. So we go ahead and we change each of those down, click, arrow pointing down, 180, 5 steps. We'll have to trial and error this. So left, five, right, and 5. There we go. So now we can actually use the keys on our keyboard to test to see if this works. So here I see I'm moving left, right, down and up. Perfect. I will pause here so that you can all get to this point and have a go changing your key commands.